Hello, everyone. Welcome again. It's always good doing something with friends, and welcome to our live stream, Ford versus Ferrari, here at Lux Lighting with Phedon Papamichael, cinematographer, Ray Garcia, key grip, and the illustrious first AD of the movie, Mr. Adam Somner. So, hello, everyone, and thank you so much for this. We're in all points all over the world, and but all four of us worked on this film together, and we're just going to talk about lighting it and all the exciting things that we did during this production. There's a lovely photograph of Mr. Phedon. Talk a bit, Phedon, if you could. Like, I remember you calling me and saying, "Hey, I got this movie." We had only done a few commercials together, and with James. How many movies have you done with James Mangold?
I think that was my fifth one. The first one I did is Identity, where Ray actually became key grip during that show.
Yeah.
But that wasn't our first movie together. But that was your first movie as a key grip, for me at least.
Yeah.
And that was Identity. Then we did Walk the Line. Then we did 310 to Yuma. Then I went and did Night and Day. And then did we do something else?
Some.
Then he did the Wolverines, which I didn't do. I did do reshoots on Logan, and I guess then we did this one. So I mean, it's my fifth movie with him. But then I did reshoots with him on Logan, and we also did Call of the Wild reshoots recently. And yeah.
Well, that's and then you and Ray have done like a bunch of movies together. Like, what'd you say yesterday, Ray, when we were talking 13 movies? 16 movies?
It's like 15 and a couple of shorts, right? A couple of shorts.
Yeah, and countless commercials, and and that, Mike, that was our first feature together, I suppose, because you've never been available, and but I've done like 30 features with Rafael Sanchez. And then that was the first time with Adam, which was great. And then since then we did another Apple commercial with Alexander Payne, and then I don't know, and then but Jim is great. I mean, Jim is just to quickly talk about my relationship with Mangold. I mean, he's crazy. He's like my brother. So there's a lot of ranting going on. Adam became quickly the third dysfunctional brother.
Exactly.
But I mean, the guy is. I mean, he's very good with actors. He talks a lot. He's very verbal, but he also has a great eye, and he'll never let us really do a bad shot and stuff. I mean, so it's not always easy because it's a process. We don't always go in that prepared. We're both, and Adam also is also very hands-on, and we roll with the punches, and we improvise, and but we find it, and it's a process where you find it on set. It's not like a Fincher movie or a Gore Verbinski movie where, you go in with the 30 frames that are drawn for the day, and you execute exactly those, but so it's really Adam and I. We're setting up things, and Mangold is there. But as soon as something goes on his monitor that looks mediocre or inadequate, he goes, "What the fuck is this? Looks like shit." And then Adam will run out and fix the background, and I'll say to Ray or somebody, like, boom down, I don't know, change your lens, go wider, go closer with a wider lens, boom down 4 inches, and then he goes, "Oh, that looks good." So it's great because he really will let his creative team do a lot of the work, but he certainly has high standards. He's got a great eye. He's a still photographer himself. He's got a very good sense for composition, and of course, I mean, he's great with characters and story, and he's very active with the actors, and they all respect him, but you know, from a technical standpoint, although he's not, you know, setting up every little thing with a finder, you know, he knows what we're doing, and he will not let us do something that he doesn't like or that's not good. And very often he's right if he makes an adjustment, and it's great. So you have like a complete filmmaker.
Yeah, no, I remember him. It was interesting. The first couple of days, he was like, it was clear you guys had a really strong relationship because he just started going at it right out of the gate, and very, very direct in his communication, New York style, which is much appreciated.
New York side, and you know, it's our 5th movie, but even on the first movie, I mean, I noticed right away. Like, I go, okay, well, he's an indie filmmaker. He did Heavy, you know, which won in Sundance. He's probably a writer, actor's director, but like on Identity, I remember I had this shot framed, and he's like boom down like a little bit, you know, and push in a little bit, and it was better. And I go, wow, that guy has an eye. So he definitely has an eye, and he's very much into photography, and he's very much into sound design. I mean, I was just, you know, with the sound guys were nominated. We were just at the BAFTAs, and they were talking about the process and the mix, and you know, he's super involved. But again, you know, he lets people, you know, he expects all the elements to kind of be working in place, like they were saying for all the temp screenings and stuff. He really wanted already like a final mix, so you got to be quick. You know, he's very, very fast. Adam's brain works very fast also, so that was a good combo. But I mean, he's very quick, he's very verbal, and you know, then once he gets his information out, he's kind of done, and you better understood what he wants, and you know, then it's up to you to fucking make that work right away. So
that was your first time working with him also, right?
With Jim, my first
time.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, I'd met him earlier in the year or the year before, because he was going to do a Patty Hearst movie. And I met him, and you know, we got on okay, and it seemed great. And then that didn't happen. Then I was meant to do a film with, you know, Alejandro Inarritu, and that didn't happen. And then this came up, and then it sort of all worked out that I got to work with him. And I think what Phedon says is true. You know, he's a leader. He's definitely the director. He's the leader of the. He's very much a big figurehead and a big force. And yeah, he lets you do your job. But as Phedon says, he's constant. Shut the door, love. He's constantly, he's constantly there in charge, running it and a part of it. But it's great to work with, and we'll get the job done in a sense. I think he's a filmmaker. He's definitely a filmmaker, and you know, enjoyable to work with. And he's a great personality as well.
Yeah.
And as Phedon said, you know, he's a strong personality, and Phedon and Jim have worked so well together. But there's a lot of energy, a lot of emotion, a lot of you know, there's a lot going on, but it's quite exhilarating. It's what if you want to work on a movie, I think is a good way to work. You know what I mean? It's very passionate and strong. Yeah.
Well, Mike, that was your first time with the combo of us, and then you know, it is. I mean, people who are not used to it, you know, they think we're fighting and stuff.
No,
I mean, even that.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I had worked with Christian Bale, of course, with Jim on 310, and I worked with Matt. That's like my 4th movie or something with Matt. But I read later in an interview, just, you know, a couple of months ago, where Christian and Matt were saying, like, for their characters, you know, Ken Miles and Girl Shelby, they kind of fed off of our energy, like, because they have, you know, a similar relationship. I mean, they're friends, but they're also fighting, and you know, there's you know, but it's all about just striving for the best they can possibly do, you know, and it's very much, I mean, it can be stressful, but it's very much creative stress, you know, like, and for people who don't understand creative stress, they might think it's just, you know, a bit, you know, chaotic, but it's really a process, because, you know, Jim will come and he'll say to the first AD, I mean, he didn't really say it to you, but or to Sheila, our script supervisor, Stella, as we call her. I mean, he'll say,
"Yeah,
all right, read me the scene. What's the scene about?" And it's very much about going in and seeing what are the elements on that day, that morning, and then slapping it together really in that moment. Of course, he's written on the script, and he's, I'm not saying he comes in completely unprepared, but he likes, and same as I mean, I'm not a big fan of preconception and really figure. I mean, I want these accidents to happen. And actually, when I did Walk the Line, I had just come off the Gore Verbinski's movie, The Weatherman, which, is a very also creative process, but the creative process happens in pre-production when you go on location and you're taking the stills. And then when you go to execution, it's more like a Hitchcock movie. You're actually executing these frames that are very much set in stone and that have been, come to through a creative process in pre-production, but on the set it's just executing, drawing by numbers. And then I got to, Walk the Line in Memphis, and it was Joaquin who also I was talking to share about the Joker, and you never really know what he's gonna do. Like on Walk the Line, we really didn't know where to what extent Joaquin is going to move and do what exactly, and we really thrived on that. And then you have to have great crew. You have to have crew that's flexible and can react quickly. You have to have great operators, great focus pullers. You have to light the set where it gives the actors freedom, which we do also on Ford versus Ferrari. I mean, we lit
big time
vast spaces, and you have to be able to maintain that for the 12 hours or 14 hours because I mean you really don't know exactly. It's not like you can really lay it out and plan it, and especially as set in Acqua Dolce. And Adam, I always bring you up in interviews that I've done a lot about this, because the way the set was configured parallel to our runway, we couldn't really orientate it to the ideal condition for the light. So the sun always rose behind it, and then by 11 it kept creeping over the top, and it would hit the the outer edges of the pits, and then then we would break for lunch, and we'd come back in the afternoon, and we have it setting on us and glaring down the length of the set. And I said, it's so crucial. People ask me like, oh, wow, this whole movie looks like it was shot in golden hour. And it was like, and I go, I mean, it was helpful that we had a 24-hour timeline at Le Mans where we needed pieces at dawn, at night, at, also our restrictions with the very short nights. We had to wrap out of there by 10:30, but also needing dusk and, but working with the first AD, I go, this is all about laying out the day and having an AD and having a director who understands, we shoot these chunks, in the morning we shoot everything that's not in the sun. We can shoot the dusk scenes. We can shoot the overcast scenes of stuff that comes back from Atlanta that was shot in cloudy conditions. And then every afternoon we do the start, which is 4 p.m. sunny, and the finish line, which is 4 p.m. sunny, and we do all those pieces. And that you can't do without a great AD who understands that and makes that work for you. And Adam, thanks again. I mean, just amazing laying out and scheduling the day like that. I mean, with all those restrictions and the extras and getting them out there and the cars not working, and always, I don't want to say that as a general note.
Yeah,
but,
there's a lot of moving parts on this.
I mean, you lose one of the 30 cars or two of the 30 cars on the run to the cars where they're supposed to pull out, and then you lost your little window of that shot of them pulling out. So I mean, it's a lot of balls up in the air, and then it takes a filmmaker. It takes everyone to be a filmmaker and understand all that. So anyway, not to blabber on, which I tend to do. So
well, in the interest of the cars, I mean, let's talk about the car rigs, because there was just like, from the first testing day we did, it was all about like, how do we get the camera where it has to go? And I know when we were talking originally, Fade, and you were talking about, Grand Prix being one of the references for it. And, and some of the rigs they did on that particular film were just like crazy, I mean, this is how you had to do it with the technology at the time. and it was,
Yeah, we were, I mean, very much inspired by that technology. I mean, when I was prepping with Mangold in his office, there was a TV basically running on a loop. It was running Grand Prix on a loop.
Wow.
They were just, and, it wasn't like we sat down and analyzed ever, but it was definitely every once in a while, oh, wow, look at that shot. It's just like a hard-mounted frontal close-up on James Garner. Obviously because of the technology, it's just hard mounted to the chassis, free driving. They used actual cars, race cars back then, the originals. But huge cameras, CinemaScope, and I go that there's something great about the immediacy and Mangold's. No matter what the genre or what the movie is doing, it's always, this story has to be told through the perspective of Ken Miles. It's all about putting the audience in the cockpit with Ken, and a lot of the action is designed and unfolds, designed by Robert Nagel and the second unit, where it really is told through the perspective of Ken, the limited view he has, understanding this insane little machine, how claustrophobic it is and how dangerous it is. And I mean, you're, in 60s technology, shitty brakes, shitty tires, rain, night. And so, the hard mounts and not doing these fancy, sweeping aerial shots and cranes and cable cams. It's just like, I mean, I go, the best stuff is just hard mount the cameras, ideally multiple cameras, get multiple angles, and then, have all the other cars interacting at the actual, wheel to wheel distance at the highest speeds we can possibly achieve. So Ray, I mean, you can talk about it a little bit. I mean, we obviously used the BISCUIT, and I didn't even know all the differences between the pod and the BISCUIT.
The pod, the BISCUIT, the Frankenstein, I mean, well, this is the BISCUIT here. I mean,
we had three of them.
We had three different
BISCUITs.
And just explain, Ray, if you could, like the concept of what the BISCUIT is.
It's a self-driving process trailer that gets the car about 2 inches off the ground, and it goes really fast.
Great. And they can take the control pod, he can take the driver where the driver
pod and put it in any corner of that process trailer.
So whatever the shot would need, you can put him behind, in front, to the side, and
hold on this slide, for example. The driver. So the BISCUIT is controlled by a stunt driver, let's say, or a precision driver who's driving the BISCUIT. The actor, the talent sits in the actual chassis, the part of the car that is connected to the BISCUIT. So he's feeling all the actual G-forces, and I mean, we didn't really do much lighting on these. I mean, you're going around the track, for example, at Willow Springs, and you have all the interactive light going around the turns and around the corners, but it's driven. In this case, it's behind the car, so this is for shots looking forward, and then sometimes it's in front, like in this slide, and that's for shots looking back onto the driver or side angles. So, and all the other cars that are interacting with our hero picture car are free driving. They're all controlled by stunt drivers. Adam, you can talk about that a little bit. How they are, it's a whole dance that's designed that appears that all these other cars are, I mean, they are actually interacting. There's nothing, there's very little CG in this movie in terms of the car work. And there's only one fully CG car in the entire movie, and that's the shot that just is not really related to our footage of the race. But anyway, Adam, I mean, you coordinating with all the other drivers and all that, and us driving this BISCUIT, maybe you can elaborate.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, the whole process in the day, the whole thing, just shooting this was to really get one's head around the plan and order. I mean, we had a lot of money, but it's funny how you have a lot of money, but in respect to these kind of films, you probably didn't have a lot of money because we really didn't have many cars. So a lot of our juggling was about, the subtle development of, say, the G40 and how we combine car colors and rigs, so that we were obviously trying to shoot a maximum day efficiently. And as Phedon was saying, we were always trying to, we were shooting wonderfully in California, but obviously California, the light is beautiful in certain times of the day and harsh in other times of the day. And sometimes Phedon wanted that and it worked, and sometimes it didn't. But with Ray and with Phedon, a lot of these rigs, and then re-rigging it and doing it in the day and mixing the rigs. And then for safety, all the cameras were a lot of the cameras were remotely planned, and getting the signals from the cameras that are on the rigs that you're looking at now to a van, where that van would be driving adjacent and slightly behind it and away from the danger, but to give focus and control. It was a load of things to do each day to get these shots done. But obviously the satisfaction of getting it was a lot of work to get those shots. And it's amazing for all that effort. You see that one little moment of, say, a close-up of Christian when he's driving in the pod vehicle. And it's astonishing footage because you feel the speed, you see the environment, you see the light changing. And for the sake of it, it is a real shot. I mean, as Phedon said, I think we did about one day where we had cars on a stage for
just for extreme close-ups, for very
extreme close-ups where physically we
very specific emotional beats. For example, when he decides to wait up for the other two GTs, when he's asked to wait them all, and just his reaction, how that's sinking in and all that. Obviously, you don't want to get those beats just free driving, but that's like Adam just mentioned. I mean, I think we had a day and a half, or maximum 2 days,
things like that.
So very close, extreme close-ups. But it's interesting because you just mentioned this, the radio transmission and the image transmission, Ray, because I just did this Hyundai job in Sweden, and it was on a lake bed that was a frozen test track, where all these guys go and test these cars, and the clients from Korea, they were like miles away, and we had they had this thing that through, I don't know, satellite or something, they had perfect transmission from wherever we were. I mean, is this something I didn't even we didn't have that. I mean, we were struggling with with Lonnie setting up these RF antennas and getting up in the center of the track, because just so the audience understands, we would rig these cars and send them off on track, and the track, like Willow Springs is one of the smaller tracks, I mean, the focus, there was a pursuit vehicle where the focus pullers and for iris control and focus control were following, and sometimes I was following those, and we're doing like 90 miles an hour going around that final turn at Willow Springs. But Ray in Sweden, I mean, I had this thing that like seemed like unlimited. I mean, Adam, you do car commercials. I mean, they were able to have super high quality images like through satellite or something, and
really?
with no delay.
And it was
those Germans. That was a German production company, Markenfilm. So they had it sort of. I guess it's really expensive. I guess that's why we didn't have it.
Was it only image, or were they pulling focus and doing?
No. It was just feeding the image back to the clients, but it was perfect. Like over 2 miles away.
So Ray, I was going to ask, like this elevator rig, what was the use of this thing?
That was just to get in the mix with all the cars and be able to change elevation in the shots. And it's not a gyro stabilized head, so you got that shaky, nasty vibration in the camera. And it's a high speed vehicle to keep up. But that was kind of the reason we used that, because the profile was small and you can go front and back pretty quick. We ended up using that a lot, right, Phedon?
I mean, that thing was great because when you have an arm like an unconventional, camera car with a Russian arm or something. Although again in Sweden, I used this compact Russian arm. They were able to do insane things. I'm gonna send you the link, Ray. But I mean, we were going up and down, and we were going high speed. But this thing is basically, since you don't have the arm swing, you can. It's like a column, and you can very quickly you can get the camera almost to ground level. I mean, this slide is not great because the camera is covered by a red cloth and it's kind of in the middle, but you see the column, and that thing can go all the way down. So the lens is basically scraping the ground, and then the operator inside the controller. That's a better picture. So then imagine that being an elevator shaft, that silver thing, and then this rig can start way at the bottom, and then you can be
right above the ground, like
tracking at high speed, and you don't have the vertical forces like you have in an arm, because you can be tracking somebody through S's and through sharp turns without having to keep the arm in place, and still get a shot where you're very low on the front bumper and then just zip up, or tracking a car, which we have very often, like very close on its tailpipe, and then it pulls away, and then two other cars break frame, and you can zip up quickly like a little crane move. It gets up to maybe 8 feet or something. So a much more precise tool in a way for high speed corners. I mean, I would assume if you're doing urban pursuit chases through traffic and all that, like the arm's always a liability, because it's a
lot of momentum too. You're swinging that whole thing. This is really low footprint. What was the deal and the purpose of the Frankenstein, which was this interesting? I don't know. I found this still, and we were talking about it yesterday, Ray. But this has got like 3 cameras mounted on it, and it looks like a bumper car or something.
That's exactly what that was used for.
Just run into stuff.
Yeah.
What the hell? Okay.
Yeah. And to be
Adam looks shocked, like he's never seen it before. I actually never saw this.
This is second unit.
I know that
you blocked it out.
I remember that. That was the plate thing we used to get plates to get right up into the back of the cars and POVs, wasn't it? Was that what that was used for?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was pretty much a plate car, another car to put in the mix where you can put cameras all over it.
That's right. I remember that rig.
Yeah, the Frankenstein was basically like a high speed. It was basically one of our race cars. Because we should say that we build all these Ford GT 40s. We build them. The originals cost anywhere from 12 to 30 million, and then the Ferrari P4s that we have, the originals cost from 25 to 45 million. So we build all these cars. We build over 30 cars. One of the chassis, which they were actually equipped with, not Ford engines, they were Chevys, but was this Frankenstein car, and it was basically a very compact, out of pipe. And Ray, you can describe it. I mean, where we could mount multiple cameras on it, but that was basically the same as our Ford GTs that could really track and keep up with our cars and be in the mix of multiple cars going on the track. So.
Yeah, we use this limited.
Yeah,
second unit used it more than we did.
Yeah.
We pretty much lived on the pod car and the 3 different variations of the biscuits.
Yeah, because our job was to cover the actors, so we had we shot everything with Christian and Matt, and so we were focusing more on rigs like this, which is actually, shooting the actor, and a lot of times in close-up, but also, like I said earlier, all the action is interactive with the free driving cars that are, alongside it or being overtaken, and that's an Oculus head in the foreground. So a lot of them are hard mounted, but there's some that can actually pan and are stabilized. But basically, we pan off, but basically we embraced the vibration. We didn't really go with vibration isolators, and we liked. I mean, that's something I also discovered watching Grand Prix. I mean, just getting that shake, that inherently comes with these hard mounts mounted to the chassis. Really helps convey the speed and the drama of it, and with this sound design, which was really pushed as well, because Mangold really likes to push the sound. So that was great.
My word, looking at all these pictures, it looks like a lot of hard work, doesn't it? I forget all this.
Very high temp.
It was 117. It was 117 degrees.
Do you remember that first week in Willow Springs where it was so hot that we had to get everyone out of the sun in the shade, trying to get these first time of these rigs that we tested? But that was a really tough first week. But we never reshot anything. Second unit, did like a day of shots very efficiently, some high-speed stunt stuff. And that sequence works really well. And it's just amazing looking at these pictures again. Oh, my word.
Yeah.
That was
here,
huge,
this is a
wasn't
good
it?
still. This is a good still. You see, like we had 4 cameras, like on Christian, and then especially in this Willow Springs race because it's a open car. I mean, the interaction, and him in his goggles and his close up, and all the cars you see around it are all driving for real alongside it. But Ray, this is a German, what is it called?
Black Tech
suction rig.
Powered
Black
suction
Tech.
rig. Yeah.
Yeah, I use that also in Sweden, but that's really great and it allows you to mount cameras rather quickly onto the chassis like that, and it's like an electronic suction rig, right? I mean,
yeah, it's a powered vacuum.
Yeah.
Ray, someone's asking a question. They're asking just kind of like it says, kind of what was the most challenging thing to figure out in rigging these cars and be time effective? And did you guys pick most of the camera angles and prep? No, too shaking.
No, I mean, like I said earlier with Mangold, I mean, there's really nothing, picking nothing in prep.
Yeah.
It's like going there, but we walk around with a finder, and I go, okay, I want a frontal close-up, I want a profile, I want a wider 3/4, and then Ray's got to place them really quickly, and luckily we got 2 very veteran operators. We got David Luckenbach and Scott Sakamoto, which I have to both praise very much, and they would spend time with the grips, and I would go quickly. I would try to get James also, and we'd pick the angles with the finder, and then we'd walk away, and they'd have an hour or 45 minutes or 25 minutes, depending. Because we'd have to switch out cars. We only had 1 biscuit, right? Or did we have multiple? I don't know.
Multiples, but
but not. I don't think for this Cobra we didn't.
No, this was a regular biscuit rig.
Yeah. So they got to go get these cameras set, and then the operators would spend time getting them all locked in, and we'd have a lens choice, and that'd be it. And then it'd be hopefully timed out and worked out with Adam where, we want to hit the track at like 4:30 where the sun is setting in Willow Springs and go around. It's going to look great. And we're going to get some camera shadows, but like 80% of the time we're going to have amazing flares and all that. And then it's all about the coordination between Adam and Ray, really. I mean, camera crew isn't really involved. It's just executing, they're going to get this thing on there, and it's really with Ray and Adam. And I guess you, Mike, you weren't really that involved at that point, but
that was week 1. I was more like
basically it's like Adam and myself going to Ray and saying, okay, so after we do these scenes here, like with Matt on the ground, we're going to be rigging that. Like, when can we pull out with this thing? And, it's tricky. It's,
it's a lot.
It's a lot of cameras.
And I think what was interesting,
we shoot for a time where we want them to pull out, and we'd be 15 minutes late, and we'd go out, and then they'd come back, and we want to change 2 of the 4 cameras. We want to change their camera position, and then Adam and I again would be, Ray, how long to change these 2 cameras? We'll run this one. We'll change the lens on this, but these 2 actually physically have to move, and then Ray would go, well, in 20 minutes, and and we go, okay, well, Adam, we can do this scene in between, and. So it's all about, I mean, really the first AD, I mean, I must say, is super instrumental in a shoot like this. I mean, if you have somebody who loses his head over this, you're fucked.
Yeah.
There was many a conversation. I mean, I guess Ray, it was a lot, wasn't it? Because we also had a limited of resources. Although we had a thing, we had a big lot of budget. We didn't have that many cars. You couldn't relax and just think, we just put that car on. Every car was always working, or if it wasn't working, it was getting changed for another race, for another look, or it had to be changed for the second unit because they needed to finish that location. So,
second unit needed our cars for free driving stuff, and we needed our car for free driving stuff.
I mean, I don't even remember
particular off-white Cobra 98. Was the only one. So once it went on that and the cameras went on, so it was it was about, okay, let's do all these hard mount shots in the morning because in the afternoon we're going to be doing all that with free driving the same car, and we didn't have a second one. I mean, so that was very, very tricky to figure out. I mean, it's a big fucking math puzzle, light, position, schedule, and I mean,
most of it, like, I mean, it all worked, I think. I mean, there was one day, wasn't it? I remember one day when we were doing the Ford test track that Jim saw a color of the car, which had been talked about in those kind of conversations. But, when you get to something about mid to last section of the film, you may have agreed something, but then you look at it in context and you go, this color is wrong. So we had to send the car away to get repainted to a different color. So I remember that was even more.
We had to reskin. I mean, several times we just didn't have enough cars, so we actually would shoot out a section of the movie and then had to reskin some of these cars because we just didn't have that many. But that particular, it showed up for the shoot. We were ready to shoot, and then we go, that car shouldn't be blue, white, or and then it's like, okay, and then Adam's got to pull up some other scene, and while this thing, leaves back for LA and comes back 6 hours later, I guess.
We went into that little booth.
That's right. Yeah, that booth. But the whole film we planned like that in a way because, we would go to a track and then we would leave time for the second unit to be on the track. So then we would do a drama scene about the car so the second unit could do that and vice versa. And we sort of leapfrogged through on a broad scale. And then as Phedon said, on the day, working with Phedon and Ray, coordinating the light, the best look for rigs. It was a lot, but a lot of fun as well.
It was a big first week, that's for certain. We'll want to talk about some interiors like that.
Mike got to do some work also later, like when we did.
Oh yeah, no, I had my hands full.
Did he?
I mean, we gotta get to
that. I was like, what are you guys doing? Yeah.
But also, I want to talk about the blue screens that we didn't have enough of, and we had to keep moving on the petty bones.
Oh yeah,
but
we got a whole section.
A whole section of that. Okay, because.
Oh yeah. No, it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
This is we had a lot of money, but we didn't have a lot of money.
Exactly.
Well, fiasco.
Exactly.
One of our.
But you gotta commend the studio. I mean, because Mangold always does, and I do want to point out that this is a near $100 million movie. Adam is actually producer on it as well. So, but it's rare these days. And now after this situation, who knows if they'll ever make another movie like this where it's not a sequel, not a supernatural. It's a period character piece where they spend this kind of money on it. And the movie, I mean, I don't know. Disney didn't make a tons of money on it. I mean, they told me, but it did very respectable. But it could have also not done as well. And no matter what, you're taking a huge chance doing a movie like that. And for Jen and Fox and Emma at the time to to do this, it's probably one of the last times we see somebody rolling the dice on something like with two male 40-year-old white guys, a period race car movie, no superheroes, a character piece, not really for teenagers, although it certainly found a very broad audience. And I don't know how many people have told me, my wife, who was never into cars, now wants me to buy a Cobra, and my son is like, wants to go to the track and race go-karts, and I mean, and we made a commercial movie, but it didn't make $1 billion, and then to make $100 million movie, I just want to send a shout out because Mangold always does to Emma at Fox, and she's not there anymore, but to make a movie like this,
I think Phedon, I mean, it's incredible, this movie, though, how many people say to me they love this movie. In a funny, I think more than movies I've worked on in my career. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Again, everyone's taste is different, but it does react to people. And as Phedon says, it was an old-fashioned formula in a movie if you were looking at these kind of movies. And it doesn't fit any models of superheroes, of modern culture, of, say, the new culture, of a woke culture, of this new thing, because it's an old-fashioned story where you know, as the two 40-year-old white men driving car, making cars and driving cars, but it was very popular, and I think it made people enjoy the movie, which is nice.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, Mangold, I mean, instinctively, I mean, he knows when the characters are good, and we had such a great supporting cast, and Tracy Letts, and I mean, all these guys were just, really memorable, and that still connects with people, and they don't get to see a lot of these movies, and you don't have to be a motorhead guy. I mean, you don't have to be a car guy to really enjoy this. Yeah. It's just a good classic, story about friendship and about pursuing, what you're passionate about and willing to put everything on the line, your life on it. And, those are just great, classic movie moments. And, yeah, I mean, luckily, I mean, good for all of us. I mean, I hope, I mean, Adam, you're working on movies all the time. You did West Side Story since then. I did Aaron Sorkin again, not really, we like to work on these movies. And I'm just hoping, especially now that, we don't know the future of theatrical cinema at this point. I mean, I know Spielberg, I talked to Janusz. I mean, I guess I'm doing my DI for Chicago 7, but, I mean, Steven is holding it. He doesn't, he wants to get it in the theaters. He doesn't, he's pushing the DI. I mean, I just hope this cinematic experience and movies that are not all VFX driven and still, cost some money to make. I'm not talking about a lot of wonderful, Fox Searchlight movies and great filmmakers that make smaller budget movies, but to make cinema in the class. I mean, I'm so proud of this movie because it's a classic Hollywood, it's just classic old school Hollywood filmmaking. And I just hope we haven't seen the end of that.
Yeah. Yeah. We got a clip here of starting the Ford assembly plant, which is one of the bigger sets that we did.
To be the zone of time. So that's why we created that, the way you guys did that and freed us up so we could shoot when the sun had gone down, which we did when we were shooting it.
Yeah, I mean, you had told me at some point, Adam, we're not going to be able to have like a 4 a.m. call and a 6 a.m. call. And then I had a certain idea because I wanted to play. So on one side, we'll see in a second here on the slide, there's a huge bank of windows that is facing east, and the sun was going to come out through those. It's actually the opposite end, I think.
Yeah, there. Like here's the top
view. The sun was going to come out, and I wanted to play pretty dramatic beams in there. Yeah, that's it's a warehouse downtown, and here at the bottom you see these huge window banks. But I wanted to control it with fly swatters and actually bring in hard light, and luckily I listened to Mike, and he suggested let's build this box that's basically a huge gigantic light box of LED panels, which he seems to own a few, and then but anyway, I saw pictures earlier. You have it. That's sealed. And then you can control the color temperature, and it's just a constant source of ambient, and also it does double duty because it blocks the direct sunlight. These windows that you see here, actually, we didn't block. We did bring hard beams from them, but like if you cut to the reverse, and show that light box. I saw the frame earlier. Jay.
No, I mean, basically what we did was, because the idea was like what you said, you wanted to bring hard light through there, but then we found out from the location department that we didn't have a lot of access to put in lifts and things back there. They only basically gave us, I think I got a still of it here. Hang on. So it's these windows. These are the windows here we're talking about. And
no, that's not it.
Right here. Hang on, it's coming up. So there's a large. It's basically 3 stories of windows that we had to light, and
yeah. So that's facing east. So the sun basically is coming, in the morning, like up to like 11:30, it's blasting through those, and I thought that would look cool, but of course, we knew it's going to be. Adam told me this is going to be a 14-hour day, and then Mike, luckily, I listened to his experience, and we basically put a giant light box out there that just maintained that ambience, and we could control the temperature and all that. You have a great photo of that rig out there. It's pretty insane.
Yeah. There's like, basically outside those windows there, we only had a very small amount to light with. They basically only gave us those parking spots because there was a business behind there that was running trucks all day. And so, that's 3 stories. So the Matt Floyd, who was the rigging key, as we started talking about solutions, it was like, how do we cap this in a way that's kind of interesting? And so they built this truss assembly where we had hung LED panels through a diffusion, and it basically allowed us to.
What do you call those fabric LED?
They're called light tile.
Light tile, yeah. You can mention that. That's okay, Mike.
Yeah, no. It's anyways, but it allowed us to cap the whole thing and keep the sun out of it, and then also illuminate the windows and change the color temperature. And it worked, and it fit within what the requirements were for the location. So we ended up with a very even light that really worked well. Like, hey Jay, can you play a clip? So the interior of this thing was kind of interesting. Jay, could you play clip 3, please? And inside was just this gigantic wall of light that allowed us to just keep an even illumination on the windows all day, and I could shoot into that because the entire scene was going to play into the windows. And so it really worked out for us. But then, like you said, Phedon, it blocked the sun too. So anything happening over there, and we could certainly make color temperature adjustments, all this kind of stuff. And then inside,
Ray, we did a similar thing in downsizing, but a much smaller scale. But yeah, that's nice. Like having a plug that basically does double duty and controls the light. I mean, it's a very practical rig, and
yeah, and
then we had these movers inside that could still create some kind of shafts and beams. I saw a picture earlier.
Yeah.
And then when you wrap, Mike Bauman turns it all into like a rave club.
Yeah, we did do that. You got that rig. You got to do something with it. But yeah, inside, let's see, inside the building, we were in the truss up overhead. I hit the slide here. There we go. And we had these just so we could put highlights on a lot of the different parts of the just some sun feel. Basically.
Yeah, I mean those movers. Can you mention quickly what they are? Because it's something I've never really used before. I mean, I've used them, but but as an actual lighting tool, they're just great because we did a lot of combo. We'll get to it later when we go to Le Mans start finish line, but we used a lot of 360s, like in Condors, 2 360s to create a base ambience. Just like we use this LED box out there, and then we use these movers really to, they're all controlled. You don't have a man in the basket, and you can direct them where you want. You can, it's all really done off the ground, and make them change color, and it's super.
And you can move quick. That's the thing.
You can move quick, and
hit something over here. Let's do a shot over here. Yeah.
It's like like can you hit that stack of tires back there, and boom, and can you make it a little cooler? Can you make it a little warmer? And the same with the 3 area sky panels with 360s that we had 2 in each basket. I mean, it's just great. I mean, I think it's if you have a budget, it's a very, very, very efficient way to maneuver.
Yeah. I have a question, Ray. Do you remember what diffusion we had in that box? Was it like red?
Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
Yeah. And
that was a 40 by 60 box outside the windows there.
And all those windows you see, there was plugs for all of that stuff. If whatever direction we were shooting in, we'd take all the light out. If everything behind camera right there was black.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you shot in this building on what, on Inception or something like that?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It was a lot to do in one day. And Adam, you had like, I don't know how many extras you had, because you had just
about 300. I think it was 250, 300 maybe. I can't, my memory goes back. But it was one of those days on films where you can't afford more than a day to do it. It's seen as needed, but it was like about 3 pages. But the cost of the day was so expensive, you had to contain it to one day. And that was one of those sort of things you get to on movies where you have to plan for a longer day, knowing that that's where you had to work. That was the cost of business to get it done in a day.
I think the set dressing, I think it was like $1.5 million or $2 million just to get that thing.
There's a lot going on there.
Ready.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was interesting too is because when we were figuring out what to do for outside that window, it was like, when we were looking at 18Ks and all that, and just the size of the footprint, but also it's just the power we were going to need out there too, because it was like, we put generators and stuff, and so that entire rig out there was only like, I don't know, I think it was maybe 100 amps of power or something like that. It wasn't.
Yeah. Here in this frame you have up currently, through those windows, I think we have M90s up there.
Yes, M90s. Yeah.
And then there's a 360 on the stand there, which we would just roll around on the ground and fill in. Basically, that's like a fill light.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
That's like an eye light right there for Tracy on the balcony.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see here. I want to talk about the Ferrari plant, because that was a 1 day shoot also, wasn't it?
That was not even a 1 day.
We moved. We did something.
We moved to the Pasadena Sierra Madre.
Oh yeah, we moved to his office. Yeah. And but it was. I remember when you were talking about this, you were like, "Hey, what do you think about some beam projectors?" And so we had some of the Mole Richardson HMI. I think they were the 12K HMI beam projectors up there to get this very dramatic, shafty type of light thing going, and really, worked great as far as like, But there was a lot of work again for just some sort of shot that was very quick as they would kind of walk through the whole place, and then in this power generating plant.
Oh, Red, can you go back one slide? Are you controlling the slide?
Yeah, I got it.
I just wanted to show something. Ray. I just want to talk really quick about Ray being a lighting grip. The grips that obviously do all the grip work. I work a lot in Europe now. They just basically do dolly camera cranes. And I always explain like how in America, no offense, Adam, I know you're a Brit, but a lighting grip.
Here we go. Now we're getting into it. Go ahead.
Look at this. This is like these little cards with a what is that called? Silver stuff.
Soft silver. Yeah, 4x4.
That's just like things you can do with a grip department with a grip who understands lighting and Ray is, has amazing eye, and I always said to him, Ray, you should gaff. He goes, no, man, that's boring. Like gaffers put the light, I shape the light, and
they turn them on, we make them look pretty.
Yeah, the flags, the toppers, the nets, the bounces, and Ray's worked obviously with a lot of great DPs with Roger Deakins, and this whole bouncing thing, and not that Mike is not a master himself, but when you have a grip that really understands lighting, it's such an amazing tool to have, so thank you again.
No, it's great because Ray and I have now done, I don't know, several films together, and it's like, it's always great to work with grips who really bring an eye to the party, and it makes your job as a gaffer, I'm sure as a cinematographer, a lot easier because you have another ally and just trying to make it all look good, and I mean, this was another big, I guess, we only shot this in like half a day. I think I don't even know
half a day. We moved there. I mean,
yeah.
And
Adam,
really
where did
great
we start?
location.
I think
we started there, but we had to leave. We
left there to go to Sunset to get, the Fiat guy buying them. Wasn't that the same day we did the motorcycle arriving and the guy coming up, running up to the house?
So we had to get to the Agnelli's villa with the Vespa guy arriving.
Yeah, so we shot from about 3 o'clock, I think 4 o'clock to about 7 to 8 there with that place, and we did this, and then we broke and then moved. That was what we did. Yeah. I remember now.
Yeah, and that was an overcast day. I mean, again, on the scout, we had said, okay, this is facing south, so we can, we're there a short period of time. We don't really have to light it. If we're lucky, we're going to get natural beams, and the scene is rather short. But luckily, we didn't just rely on that, and we brought this equipment that you see here, which are, 18Ks or Air Maxes underslung. But yeah, I mean, and then Adam, like we went to Agnelli's villa, and again we started from scratch there. I mean, remember?
Yeah, except
we didn't have a shop there. Where is he going to come from? Where is he going to dump the Vespa? How is he going to run to the house? You had those little girls crossing, and then but that's, I mean, if you again, I mean, you have filmmakers that can think on their feet. I mean, you just react and you go, and but we arrived in the afternoon and we threw that together on the spot, basically. I mean, that's not like you get to a new location halfway through the day and it's a sunset evening scene, and you gotta just react to.
We were downstairs, upstairs, then went upstairs, then on the phone, and we shot right until the light went, didn't we? There.
I mean, we did like 16 takes of him answering the phone on the veranda up there, and
that's right.
And that was a very, very challenging shot in the DI because, I mean, I think we were wide open. We were pushing, the LF to the max, and it's a pretty thin neg at that point, but and then the ratios. I mean, Mike, when we go to that scene, if you have that on your plan here, at the runway, when we did the dusk scene with.
Oh yeah, this is it right here, actually. Yeah, the sunset shot.
I mean, that's just. I always talk about that because again, we Adam, we moved over to the runway, and it was Christian Bale describing.
Hey, can you play
track to him?
Clip 4?
Yeah. The department had these big illuminated numbers. We had the number 8, which luckily, here they are. So this is early on. They're both like at 80%, and then that's Charlie Erlinger on the dolly, and we didn't have time to lay track. We really didn't know the blocking, so we were like throw the Oculus on the dolly, so we could just roll around without laying track. We had Scott Sakamoto on another camera doing a raking angle on Steadicam, rolled both cameras simultaneously on all these setups, and started just after the scene. We started shooting after the sun set, and then basically shot till we just couldn't record an image anymore, and we controlled these 2 sky panels. Of course, we could reduce and try and sort of balance it to the sky, but what happened is all the distant airport lights we couldn't control, and they became brighter and brighter, and so VFX brothers helped us in post by adding more blown out airport landing strip lights to the earlier shots where we're still shooting at an 8, so, and later we're shooting at a 1.8. So, but yeah, that was crazy. But I'm glad we did it. I mean, we, Adam, again, like we had a plan, and we didn't have to go back the second day, and it would have been nice not to have to do it again with the kid. And it was a very sort of intimate father-son scene, and. the fact that we pulled it off and didn't have to reshoot that either is quite a challenge, but a great yeah, it's a great scene. A lot of people single out this scene, that have seen the movie. So
I like when during the Le Mans race when he hits the perfect lap, and the boy understands it because of what happened here.
He got the perfect lap.
Yeah. It was definitely like one of those things where it was just literally in a half hour. What we do and get it, and just so many shots. It was definitely a fun.
And that's
moment.
the wonderful thing about Christian, wasn't it? And Noah, how Christian's the kind of actor who is he's very detailed in his prep, but when he's needed to be there, he does his prep, but he's always there. He needs to be there. He'd rather be on the set than anywhere else. So and he knows his stuff and he's prepared, and so was Noah. So the actors made that possible as well. Just being there, being present, being connected, and knowing the words basically. And they were prepared.
Yeah. And to do that in one day in a half hour is crazy for such an important scene. So I was going to talk a bit about another interior, which was an interesting set of challenges, which was the Ford office at the LA Times building, and that one. Was day and night in that thing. It certainly.
Can you excuse? I'm going to excuse myself for a little moment.
Okay, no problem. We'll keep it going.
This is very technical, and this is crazy rigs you guys did, because this is not on stage. We're on what floor?
Well, here I got a picture of it. So that's where we were on that. That
top black box.
Yeah, that's where we were shooting it, and so yes, it was. It was an interesting set of challenges because the only area we had was where those arrows are to light, and and they were very particular about the windows. If at the LA Times building, they don't want you to put any hot lights into it, otherwise they're afraid you're going to crack the glass. And those are tinted windows too, to boot. So it's a interesting set of challenges. And so the guys, the team that was working out there, they had to have safety wire put in. I remember Matt had to put it in a whole safety system.
Yeah, you had to put a whole.
They couldn't put in a guardrail because we would have seen the guardrail out the windows. And so they ended up pushing around these 360s all over the place, and then the sun, we had to work with what the sun was giving us too. And because this was, how many days did we shoot here, Adam? Do you remember? I think it was a couple.
I think we did overall 3 or 4 days there.
Yeah,
because we also had Lee's office. We had Lee's office there. We had the other area where we had everyone assembling and walking. Some of that stuff got cut out and reduced. And then we had, obviously, Ford's office in the other part. There's one of those conversations on films where you go somewhere, you go, well, why are we shooting here on this floor? Shouldn't we build this? And then you realize this, because of the amount of work or because of the size of the sets and what was given, it was financially better to use a location. And yet it had none of the benefits. Obviously, then the work really fell to Ray's gang to rig it for day, night, for green screens, because at daytime we wanted green screens outside, but at nighttime we didn't want green screens because you could get use of the night and the real night. So it became a whole, engineering feat really to make the location work for a filming, set. And I know Ray did it, and we did it. But it was lots of conversations, a lot of scouting, a lot of planning, and that's what I remember mostly of that phase, anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, what's a challenge too is I remember that ceiling has you can't drill into the ceiling or touch the ceiling at all or something because it has asbestos in it, or so there's some health reason you can't mess with it.
And that for me, a lot of this is a lot of planning, but also our rigging crew.
Yeah,
I mean, Matt makes all of this possible, just executing and having everything laid out in a really worker friendly everything we can move around and adapt quickly to whatever Phedon and Jim need, but there's a base already there. So
yeah, and I mean, it was definitely a thing in that, Mike Bonneau, who was the rigging gaffer, those guys did a great job because so much of this was about wide shots and seeing the space, and you had to have, cable had to be hidden very specifically, lights rigged into the ceiling, like this, like all these ceiling practicals that go back one slide, all that stuff, was replaced with LED. I think we had light mats in there or something so that we could just change the color temperature, because we had to go in there and shoot day where we needed a daylight color temperature and then flip over to night for incandescent. And there really wasn't like a rehearsal beforehand, like Phedon says. And here's, Phedon objecting to one of the electricians, putting, but then we also had night in there too, and a big scene night where Tracy was, after Ferrari had decided not to sell the company, and so there's a lot of different stuff going on in that space we had to get done. And this scene actually came out quite nice.
That's a good scene. Yeah.
Just the scramble it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looked really good in that office. All of that great stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of it was.
And that great set is the ANSI office was great as well, wasn't it? That waiting room there was really good.
Oh, yeah.
It was really.
You had that giant top light.
Yeah.
And I mean, everything was crated because it was, we were right at the top of the frame lines with all the lights, and so it was just about controlling light off the walls and things like that, and keeping the mood.
There was one tricky thing in the DI here in one of the day scenes, because this one side, the south side, I guess, of the building, we didn't control the direct sunlight ray.
Oh yeah, I remember we had to kind of compromise on that. Yeah,
and then when the sun would come out of clouds,
it was blowing out all
change the ambience, and then we'd have this. It looked very nice, but we'd have these hard, actual sun patterns hitting the floor. But that was tricky because, of course, they used takes that had the sun out and it takes it. So that was a bit of a challenge in the DI.
Yeah. We had this diner scene where he convinces, where Carol Shelby convinces Ken Miles to get on board, and it was kind of nice because this is a half a day of shooting, I think, right? Because we started doing the dusk scene and then we went into this.
Yeah.
And it was them sitting here. This is when Jim was rehearsing with them, and but it was all about. There's a lot going on. As obviously windows, floor, as far as we could see, and so a lot of background, a lot of period vehicles, a lot of period dressing, and hats off to the set deck department for putting a lot of great practicals out the windows and things like that, and
Adam moving the cars in the parking lot at the right time, like a car pulling
exactly.
into the.
Yeah, it's a nice scene, that, isn't it?
It's a very nice scene, yeah.
Yeah, but that was also somewhere if you ask me where it was now, it was so far away. I remember driving miles and miles.
I have no idea where it was. Still to this day, I have no idea where it was.
I still try to remember it. And then we did that. We did the scene where we did it all together, didn't we? Where Matt came and sees him when he's working at the garage first.
Yeah, right beforehand.
We moved to that for the night. Yeah,
that was another dusk scene that we did.
A
substantial amount of dialogue in a 15-minute window.
Yeah. We did a big exterior pull up of the road, and it was like grabbing the lock up. But yeah, I remember that. It was a good day.
That didn't make the movie, I don't think.
Yeah, it is.
No, it isn't there. It's right before this scene. It is. And it's because in the background, we didn't change the fluorescence. It's got green tubes in the back and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of embraced what it was. And it was great. We hit it at the right time, and those guys are pros, so they were totally on top of it. Well, I guess I forgot to move this next slide. But one of the big areas that we were shooting in, this was out at Ontario Airport, was a Shelby American, and that facility at night. And when they come in and they've flown the GT over, and they just are showing it to Ken Miles for the first time. And that's a good.
Here you guys see that rig I was talking about earlier. That was basically our go-to Condor rig with the 360s,
The
two
360s.
360s, and the two movers.
Yeah, which are high
and then
end.
on the ground
there,
on the right, on the ground, you see the other light panels that are,
Yeah, I remember when we were talking about this, Ray. When the three of us were talking about it, this was kind of something that you had done. I think with Roger, or just making it an incredibly long source that's very low profile, and it worked out really well because it's not about having an exposure; it's just something, and so that they get highlight, and no matter where they're turning, and it gives a lot of freedom of camera movement and stuff. And
well, also when people are crossing the light source, you really don't get shadows when you have those extended sources. And Ray, by the way, Roger really enjoyed this movie. I mean, multiple times. He's
really, that's great.
Him and James.
He told me he was going to kill me if I ever used any of his tricks. We use them all.
I've been telling him that I'm doing that stuff. So anyway, but I mean, James and Roger really enjoyed the film tremendously. So but Mike, do you have anything where we can talk about the projection of the cars inside?
Yep.
Because
that's
that and the Magic Hour scene we talked about on the runway with Noah and Christian. I mean, that's the most mentioned scene. I mean, people just love that effect, and I just want to say how we, again, I mean, this is scripted.
I remember a very high stress situation.
Well, people always ask me, like, wow, who came up with that? I go, it was scripted. It's scripted that these car shadows play across the wall while he's listening to, the Le Mans in '65, basically the year he wasn't taken along, and with Mike. I kept saying, because, I had some anxiety about it. I'm like, is this going to work? It's scripted. It's very specific. The cars have to be traveling across this set, which is an actual location. It's a gigantic aircraft hangar. They should be traveling in the right direction. And, I said, we got to test it. We got to do cutouts of cars and try different sources to create this shadow that you see in this frame. That's the beginning of one of the cars, and then moving left to right. So we had art department give us cutouts out of 4x8 beadboards, and in the end, go back a slide. We had that trailer that was actually sitting there with a couple of our cars on it, and there it is. That was actually part of his set dressing, and it was sitting there, and I'm like, well, maybe we should just use that because this other thing seems a bit gimmicky, and
it was too.
And now, in order to create a hard shadow from these cars that are maybe 50 yards away from the wall they're projecting onto, we needed a pretty large source that was again pretty far away from these cars, and the flare you're seeing there is basically
that's from a par can. We put a par can on the. We started. I think we put a par can on the plane when we looked to it to get the flare, and then when we flipped around and did the shadow projection, we had a T12 out there that so a 12K Fresnel, which was
so we have a T12 on a Western dolly with a bunch of cables slacked and a bunch of very keen electricians and grips rolling this thing.
Like a few hundred feet to get the full effect of the shadow. It it was great. It was, but I think it was just the geography of everything and getting it all worked out, and because it's just like, okay, let's get it a little higher up on his head, lower it down, let's put it on this, okay, and it's just kind of, it was a good, it was fun. But I remember there being a lot of stress at the time, but that's okay.
It's fun when it works.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where you talk about it, you have a plan, but then actually you're coming up with a solution. 20 minutes before the shot, where you're okay, that's working. Thank God. Like, okay, oh no, they're running the wrong direction. Okay, well, and then the timing of it all, and the connecting. His expression right here is very specifically timed in to a specific moment in the race, and you got guys out there who are completely isolated from what's actually happening within here in 5 feet of it. The camera is like 5 feet from the performance. Then you got guys out there like 100 yards away, like running with a huge Western dolly with a T12, and the timing has to be sensitive. So
it's
definitely
great.
a lot of yelling going on.
But it was good.
You were doing
we were queuing it, but still, it's like you've got this very intimate moment happening in front of camera, and then this just crazy thing happening 300 feet away, and just okay, faster, slower. Oh my god, no, and then it was great. I mean, it was definitely like very fluid and organic, and but I mean, it's such a simple effect, but yet it was so effective. And
it was very effective, and really the audience really every comment I've gotten about this movie, almost everyone points out this scene, like they just love it, so it's something that became a memorable moment in the story.
And I mean, we could talk a bit about, of course, where most of our heavy lifting happened, which is at the beautiful pit row in Le Mans pit row, which is a set that was constructed in its full glory. It was very, very impressive. Basically we shot there, I don't know, Adam, over there like 4 or 5 weeks.
I think over 5 weeks.
No, 14 days. No,
I think it was a bit. I should look at my schedule. I think it was over. It ended. We did extend a little bit because I remember, I do remember as in the beginning when we were looking at options to build this place. We liked Agadolfe because of many reasons, because of the track and because its size and where it was. But there was this whole pressure about thinking, there could be a restriction where we may have to finish at 10:30. And
initially it was, we were told by production that midnight. Then when it was too late, when it was too late for Adam and I to say, this is insane.
It was one of those
because the thing was, already built. They said actually it's 10:30 p.m. Where you have to shut down because of the noise restrictions of the. This is Agua Dulce. It's an airstrip out in horse country off of 14 towards Mojave, and there are a lot of ranches around, and anyways, some people who have some money, and then we just couldn't make the noise, and now we're shooting what? When is this? October? No, September.
No, this was in in August/September when we started. So we always had an issue getting into our night work because it wasn't by that stage I believe it was probably 9:30. Oh no, sorry.
No, it was. I think we started at 8:45 or something.
Yeah, there was
8:40. I mean, literally, we would count the minutes. Because again, to explain to the listener, we would shoot at this place. Adam, we came up with this call time of 10 a.m. because we would have to wrap at 10:30. So every morning we would start at 10. Now this is the set that's like 300 yards long. Well, maybe I don't know how long it is, but it's pretty long and very detailed. And it's all the pit lane with all the pits actually built with all the details of the dressing and all the extras with multiple layers of tribunes and everything on the opposite side where the grandstands would be are gigantic blue screen panels that were being moved around by Ray in a constant, piecing together a puzzle of green screens because we didn't have enough to have them permanently in place, but that's a whole different story. But basically, so here's our set. So behind the set, the sun would rise, and then that's what I was saying earlier, where around 11:30 would come over the top and start hitting these little pits. And then we would start at 10 because we needed to shoot an extensive part of this sequence was at night because it's a 24-hour race. So there's a extensive rain night sequence. And so we would come back from lunch, right, Adam? We would at like 3 shoot afternoon, which is why we always have this beautiful golden light for all these day exteriors. And then we would shut down at some point, stop shooting like at 6, and get ready for our night work, and which was very intricate. I mean, there's like Ferraris coming into the pit that are on fire.
That was a bunch. There was a lot of stuff.
Matt Damon's on fire in 1959, and it's not like little dialogue scenes. I mean, there's all, and then these cars have to blow through these pits. This is the start-finish line as well. So you got, in addition to us doing our dramatic scenes there at night in a 1.5-hour window, you also have cars going by at 90 miles an hour.
Hundreds of extras.
Hundreds of extras. And I was going to say, Phedon, the thing about the set too is it had to be built to structurally support people on all levels. So it had to be, this was not like a facade that, we're not going to put anybody up there. I mean, people were on every level. And, so this took months to construct.
Yeah. But you remember that wall, the wall that was built in front?
Where it said shell on it.
Originally it was going to be wood, and then we said, well, hang on, we're going to have a car racing by, and we're going to have people there, extras, actors behind this wall. So then we obviously constructed it so it was actual, wasn't it? It was concreted in that wall.
Yeah, those are concrete walls that if a car lost control and slammed into them, everybody in the pits would actually be protected. I mean, so that was, And, so you couldn't move those around anymore later.
we actually have, go ahead, Ray.
That set was what, a little bit less than 500 feet long?
Yeah, I think it was 400 some. I was going to, we have a clip actually. Hey, Jay, could you play 5? And
and then it was just trying to, there was a whole deal, wasn't it? Yeah, a lot of stuff.
And then, I mean, the clocks everywhere, and poor Sheila, and poor Stella. I mean, we fixed a lot of these clocks digitally later. But, it's all like, there's a clock in every shot, and then there's like this exact timeline, it's like this lap, and, it's 4 in the afternoon, it's 8, and then there's scenes and like 6 in the afternoon, it's 8, and Ford goes to have dinner, and then, the next morning he comes back, and, Ford is in the lead, and then, Ferraris drop off, and it all leads up to the finish, which is, again, at 4, it's a 24-hour race. So, here are the blue screens.
I was going to say, I'll start with this here. Yeah.
We didn't have enough money to have enough of these. So that became, fell upon Ray to, again, and then Adam coordinating, and the direction of light and what time of day and when are we moving these things. Because, I mean, they move, but they don't move in like 10 minutes.
They're all in these petty bones. And it's like, so we could put a wall wherever we'd happen to be, a wall of blue, because there really wasn't anything built on the other side of that row, the wall, the low wall, and then sometimes we put extras on it.
Yeah, and some platforms for extras.
Yeah.
Apparently, most of those Call of the Wild had, Janusz Kaminski had on the set not far away.
They were shooting up the road.
Because we did the reshoots, Adam. And we had to recreate, a lot of that cabin and all that. I mean, I know you didn't do Call of the Wild, but apparently they. I mean, I saw the amount of blue screen they had to circle their western town, and they had all of it. So we ended up with 5 of these pieces, and good luck driving these up and down.
Yeah.
And
we just had to build that wall. Yeah. Go ahead, Ray.
And it was windy. We had anywhere from 20, 28, 30, 32 mile-an-hour winds on occasion.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And I think the thing was, like you said, Phedon, is like we'd have to really plan our day because, we know we can shoot a dawn scene from this time before the sun hits the pit area. So let's shoot all the dawn stuff that is related to that. And then when the sun hits, now we can do this section of stuff. And then, there's a lot of moving parts in there. And timing, and then meanwhile, Ray, you got the whole team, like also, just doing stuff with the cars, and lighting wise for all this car interior stuff, most of the time we would just take like a cream source micro or something like that, because they're pretty durable and we could just strap it to something and just to get a little highlight or things of that nature. And then again at night too there was obviously a majority of stuff at night, so we had to have this whole day look, and then as quick as we could flip over to a whole night sequence so we could maximize our night shooting time, which meant moving blue screens, getting the blue screens lit, lot of
while lighting our scenes and rigging cars.
Yes, exactly.
And setting rain towers. And setting rain towers.
Yeah.
And setting rain towers.
Extras.
Because at the best of it, I think, we got like, maybe the best of it, we were getting like 3.5 hours. It was like 6:30. It was like, it was.
No, we didn't have 3.5 hours.
No, we only had.
I mean, with the preparation, yes, but
with the preparation
time,
so
I think it was 1 hour, 1 hour and 40 minutes of actual shooting time every night.
Yeah,
a maximum 2 hours.
Yeah, I remember we went for those, and we had to go for those little bits each day of the rain thing. Getting the Ferrari car. Now we're at this end. Now we're going.
I think we would get in. I think we would do 7 to maximum 10 setups.
Yeah.
But very rough.
It was stressful. That was stressful trying to get that bit in, because it was such a lot of elements to get going each time, knowing that you had to wrap again as soon as you got going. God.
Yeah, and I mean there was a lot. This night work had a lot of stuff happening, and
well, but it helped having you put these things. So these things are all around. They're surrounding our set. So again, it's the 360s with the 2 movers. Yeah. And then go back to the prior one. We should talk about the practicals. I mean, set dressing in our department provided all these practicals that we ended up using a lot. We call them double-headed monster, and you see those 2 double, sort of parkan looking
in the pits.
They're like floodlights or something, and we use those a lot.
Well, there were over 300. I think we had like 340 some practicals in the entire thing, between all the lights, the signs, the fluorescence, and So the challenge was, obviously we needed a tremendous amount of practicals built into the set, so we always had something to look at. And then in addition to that, we would have all these condors, these lifts ready to go, which would have the 2 Airy 360s and the 2 high-end system Solar Frame 3000s underneath. So then we had an ability to do a really soft wash, which was great for backlighting rain and things like this. And then also have some hard stuff to pick out little bits and bobs depending on what was happening. But it was, we only had this window because I think it was like getting night I think we had 3 hours maybe every night.
I think it was 8:30.
I think it was like. It was I think it was like around 8.
8, yeah. Maybe it was 7:45, yeah.
Yeah, and then we were done at 10.
And then at 10 we had to stop, right? At 10, and if we
were,
well,
we used to push it to 10:20. We sometimes we shot to 10:20, depending which day it was. Yeah. But then we did exactly.
Yeah,
I think on Friday we could push it.
Yeah, you could give it a little nudge at times, but like this.
Here you see all the blue screens nicely lined up.
Yeah.
So everything on the opposite side of our pits is, and I must say, Olivier did our VFX supervisor did an amazing job, and all the crowd and all the interaction with the light and the sunlight. I mean, he's, really, really shined on this one. They really did a fantastic job.
Yeah. In fact, I think, hey Jay, could you play clip 6, which is the behind the scenes night video? Hopefully still, yeah. So we had all this going on out here, and obviously our lifts everywhere, and then depending which direction we were looking, because you're right, we didn't have enough blue screen to do the entire length, so you just have to move the stuff down or hide it, and
this is just tons of practicals.
But there's
flag areas being
a lot going on.
T12s,
just
lots of practicals. Almost
just getting all that spun up and turned on, so that when when the light was at the right time, cameras were ready, shot was ready. It was it was a challenge. And then also to and then when we added in like things like the rain and all that, but
the rain and the cars going by. I mean, cars had to go by all the time. Like in this scene right here, this shot right here. I mean, it's raking close-ups. I mean, there's cars going by.
Yeah, in the background. That's right. That's right. In the right order.
I mean, there's no digital cars. There's no digital cars anywhere. There's only one scene where it's a fully CG car. I mean, there's cars that have to be timed, and Adam's talking to Robert and sending off these cars, and then it's not a circular track. I mean, they have to reset, and then it's a runway, so there's only one direction.
Yeah. And I mean,
and not that many cars. Not that many cars.
No. And we were using all the different levels of the set. We were using just for lighting. If we weren't seeing it, we were lighting from it. And I mean, to control
what is that light called? What is that thing called? That long.
Oh, that long thing is a light box, 2x8 light box.
Yeah,
and
those are great.
So nice long source, low profile. Somebody's asking a question about just how we controlled all of it. So we had a programmer. His name was Jeff Barco. He was running it all with the Grand MA. So we could set levels because sometimes, we'd want to set an intensity of everything. All the practicals were all on dimmers, so we could set levels as needed. And it really had a lot going on. And everything like down to the clock, like the intensity of that clock, we could dim if necessary. And because we had to set it at different levels for when it was a dusk scene or a day scene or a night scene. And it was, it was a lot to have.
Here you're seeing the rain condors. It was like a battle between our lighting condors, the rain condors, the grip bones, the blue screens, and everybody, everything behind that wall that says Dunlop on it. It's just patches of grass, and we weren't even really allowed to roll on them, I think, either.
Yeah.
So it's just
we only had
maneuvering all this equipment.
We only had the one clock. We had to move that clock too. That was
that's right.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, we had to move that clock into a different position.
And then this and then just getting all these moments like where he's staring down Bandini, and I think I actually got the which is a great little thing. And then here we got and this is in Dit Central, where Lonnie and all of us were camped out because we had a lot of cameras going on and things like that.
I'm checking my email.
Checking your email, checking dailies. And then of course and it's all great. And then we have to of course do rain. And you never really, I don't know if the set was really constructed as well as it could have been for water. Hey Jay, can you play clip 8? Because we had a lot of rain happening, just dumping from I don't know, I think we had 4 or 5 of these towers. I mean, there was just a line of water trucks. I think there was 8 water trucks there, and it was
There's a crane I forgot we even used on this movie.
Yeah. And I mean, like you said, Phedon, it was just all about a battle of airspace and like who could put what where. And because then the ground after a few days was starting to get soggy, so it was like condors were getting. I remember one time we had one got stuck. And it was it was a lot of
here you go. I mean, here you see so like everything behind that wall that says Ferrari is just patches of grass and and then Adam's even placing some extras like as a reference. There's like 6 people there, I think, as a reference for VFX. Crazy.
We had depth all up and down that we would move for extras.
That's it.
Well, that's right.
That's right. So you get the right height.
Pictures.
Well, here this is a let's see. I mean, there's because everybody in like this situation here, which is dumping rain, and everybody is Scott's got the Steadicam covered in he's wearing the full rain gear and all that stuff, and got the lights covered.
Yeah.
It was,
that opening sequence is great, actually. I love that 59 sequence.
oh yeah. Oh, we got I got
nice.
that coming up next. That is a cool sequence because it was like much more stripped down, and I think we shot that. That was like the last couple days we shot there because they had to wrap some of the set dusting and get it's time to start closing up shop, and so we just kind of sneaked this one in.
Well, they also had to change over all the signage to 59.
That's right.
And Shelby is driving an Aston Martin.
Yeah.
And it's all different race cars.
Yeah. The atmosphere looks great.
Yeah, no, it's definitely we definitely used a lot more smoke in this sequence, I remember, and just had a lot of stuff going on, and again, the same light sources on the lifts work great, but we could just okay, let's have more hard sources here or more diffused depending on
I think this scene we played a little warmer to give it a different tonality also, because this was 5 years prior. But it was very easy with all the tungsten practicals to control and then with our 360s and the movers to just adjust color temperature.
Yeah, and it was a good. Here you are. This next one's. I got a picture. There you are. You and Corey, who was operating. But yeah, and then what we were talking about earlier was just kind of like how we did some of those close-ups, all that stuff with Bandini and Ken Miles, like kind of, we took over. We were on this airport, so we took over one of the hangars. But of course, it wasn't really designed to hold any weight. So the rigging team had come in and they had to put in a floor-supported system to hold any lighting that we were going to do in there. And so they, which we looked at a bunch of different ways to kind of do this, but we were looking at doing some stuff with some video walls that would allow us to play some content on. So you could see, Olivier, the visual effects supervisor, had some plates that he had photographed, and we just put those plates on the panels, so you've got the right reflections in the cars for the day work.
Yeah, that was footage that they generated because Olivier actually joined second unit in Georgia, and those are actually sort of background plates that we were going to use for the composites. And here we are shooting those specific moments, very extreme close-ups. This is the few exceptions in the movie where we actually did this not on stage, but in this little aircraft hangar. And it's actually amazing how it cuts in, and even we were sort of randomly doing interactive light and stuff. I mean, just kind of
just like activity going on, and then but then the effects guys did this kind of a rig where then they polished that floor and they like floated these cars on like a little cushion of air, like air hockey table style or something like that.
Yeah.
So they make these very minute.
Doing car to car. At some point, we got three different chassis. All that's like.
That's where he's racing.
So that background car is not like a separate element. They're actually like jogging back and forth on these little air lifts.
Yeah, it was cool because you could just really work the timing out, and for the actors, they could totally do the performance. In both directions. And I mean, we shot like pretty much like not just profile angles, but we were doing frontal stuff too. I remember that, and obviously tons of shots of pedals and a lot of
I mean, we had night, day, in steering wheels, shifting instruments,
gauges,
screen close-ups, gauges. Yeah, there you see it. Yeah, there's Adam.
Yeah, there's Adam. He's everywhere in this. It's that actually worked out because I think we only shot that for a couple of days, and meanwhile, second unit is out on the track, just racing cars, getting whatever, and it was very active. The film factory was up and running, but we were getting a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and Phedon, very, very, get your hands right in there. I saw this at the, this is the Daytona track that we shot and stuff like that. It was good stuff. There's a bunch of questions here. Let me, let's see. Can you talk about the moving car shots in the race during the exterior? I mean, it was basically a mix of everything from stuff we were shooting at Agua Dulce with multiple car rigs there to second unit was shooting. That was Igor was shooting second unit, right?
Yeah, Igor Meglic. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so they had their own unit. I think they shot down there for 3 or 4 weeks. And
no, 10 days, I think.
Was that it?
They were also very limited on time and very limited on cars. And it's actually amazing what they came back with. I mean, I must commend Darren, second unit director, and Darren Prescott and Igor Meglic. I mean, as much, heat they were getting from Jim and everybody. I mean, we were like, I don't know, we at some point, Adam, the three of us, Jim and Adam and I, were going to go join them, and we were going to maybe take Christian out there, but
yes,
all came. I mean, we scouted it, right? We picked all the tracks.
No, we scouted and picked it. We went for that extensive scout, and but it was thankless, wasn't it? Because you had the imagination was needed. It was roads and see it, and they had limited resources, but I think it was like a 2.5, 3. It was like about 14 days, and maybe they stayed another couple. But the priority was it wasn't an open ended, because the whole schedule was built to get those cars back to LA, so that we could then do the whole sequence of the factories and everything. It was a whole, the dance between.
They couldn't really extend because, I mean, we only had that one set of cars. So Adam scheduled all the scenes, dramatic scenes at, like Ford office, or I don't know what we were doing. While they had
all the offices, and we did the runways, and then we took the GTs back and left them with the Ferraris, and then it was that which led us up to go to Le Mans, to the Le Mans stuff. Yeah, it was a thing.
Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, it's just the logistics that were happening and then cars would break down and things like that would happen, and then there was a whole team there to try and fix stuff and get it up and running.
Yeah, and I mean, I must say we didn't really crash any. I don't think we had any total losses. I mean, I think they had a little bumper contacts and stuff, and I think one mat box. But overall, all things considered, we didn't really. I mean, nobody got hurt.
No, thankfully, touch wood. No, touch wood. Yeah.
Nobody got hurt, and I don't think we lost. We didn't lose. People ask me all the time, how many cameras did you lose? And I'm like, I don't think we lost any. I know we clipped the mat box once.
Yeah, I think that.
And with that Frankenstein rig, I mean, that tracking, that was mostly used by a second unit. I mean, that tracking those vehicles like literally inches away from the body. So
And
in the movie, I mean, you see cars tracking parallel, and the wheels are touching, at times. So I mean, really amazing team of drivers, and Robert Nagel and Darren, second unit director, and Igor, and they have a lot of expertise and experience. I mean, they've done Baby Driver, Born. I mean, Igor right after that went to Republic of Georgia and Thailand, and they did Fast and Furious 9, and just amazing footage. So.
Yeah. Someone's asking, which I think is a good question, night work at Le Mans. Did we ever come back after a night and readjust and learning curve from the day before, and how fluid was the creativity each night, which is every night we would be making adjustments because we learn, okay, this worked good, this didn't work good. And we'd also give a bunch of notes to the rigging crew that could change during the day. So Mike Bonneau and his team would come through and, hey, let's swap this out or move this lift over there and all that kind of stuff. But at least on my end from the lighting thing, because we always had to move blue screens, we had condors. There was also rain towers. So there's a lot of factors which bought us some time. Adam had to get a bunch of extras going. So even though, yes, exactly. So there was a lot of stuff to delay. I'd be like, hey, Adam, you should put some more extras down there. Great. Yeah, that would buy us a few more minutes, so there's a lot of moving parts, which just kind of, I don't think we were ever really like waiting on like lighting or anything like that per se, because there were so many other elements.
And I mean, we basically stuck. There wasn't much of a learning curve. I mean, we kind of came up with this concept of these, 360s and the movies, and then really using all the practicals and I mean, that worked and it looked great. I mean, we saw it look great.
Yeah, it was great contrast, good highlights in the background.
we didn't really make adjustments to the concept of it, but yeah, I mean, just a lot of factors, a lot of moving parts, regardless, and then rain and water and cars and but like we pretty much stuck with a lighting concept. I mean, we didn't really adjust to that. I mean, the color, the warm. I mean, it's a period movie, so and then it's still. It's not really a stylized piece. I mean, it's always, my lighting approach is always based on reality and realism and, on practical sources. And it's not like I'm doing crazy backlights and blue backlights and rains. I mean, it's always, very naturalistic as much as, I can do that. So,
Phedon, what somebody's asking a question about, what did you do? Did you set one? I can't even remember. Did you just set one LUT for this and go, or what was the whole thing with the LUT on this?
We had different LUTs for
different
the night exteriors, like for that whole Le Mans. We did have a LUT. I mean, we have a basic LUT, which is is originally sort of a Kodak film LUT, and then Lonnie Daimler, my DIT, we tweak at times. The blacks or how crushed it is, because it's basically definitely a bit more crushed, the blacks, than the Rec 709, and it's a different curve, so it's the saturation is reduced, and that's our base LUT. That does apply to all the day and nights and interiors and exteriors. But we adjusted for sequences like Le Mans at night. There's an adjustment there where I say I don't want the warms as red. I want them a little bit more, amber, yellow, and a bit dirty or green in the highlights or something like that. And then we go with that. And then, Lonnie is very meticulous. I mean, I don't know, a lot of people do that, but at Wrap he stays probably does another hour when he's downloading the material, and he we even do split screens and look, and he matches the dailies pretty well, because Mangold is also very specific about how the dailies look, and I'm happy he is, and rightfully so, because the director and the editor live with that material for months, and if they're looking at something that's off, even though we know it's off in theory, but by the time you get into the DI and you're looking at something that's always slightly green, when you take that green out in the DI, then they go, well, it's like it becomes the new reality.
Yeah, it becomes the new thing.
I mean, I was talking to Janusz, like Janusz would go in on the Spielberg movies at 5 a.m. into Technicolor and retime the film dailies. And I'm like, Janusz, why are you doing that? Like, you're not getting enough sleep, and you got to go to the lab and you reprint all this. And why do you do that? And he goes, because, Steven, like, gets used to it. Like, and if something's blue, like in Jurassic Park, and it's too blue, but then, in the end, so even a director who's as technically knowledgeable and experienced as Steven Spielberg, it just happens to you. It just happens to you. You look at this footage for months and it's blue, and then when you in the DI you finally take the blue out, they go, that's not how it looked on the set. And it's like, yeah, that was the original intent, but you've been watching blue dailies for 4 months. Yeah, but I like it. I like the blue.
Oh, yeah,
so
man, you're dead.
It's important. I mean, people say, look, I mean, in Europe, like, I really don't have DIT staff that does on-set coloring. I mean, it's not really you know, and on commercials. I mean, it's just raw and not really done, and it's fine, you know, because I mean, you know, okay, on the commercial anyway, it doesn't matter. I mean, I don't really need it. Although it's nice to light to a lot that's gonna be close to the final product, but you know, it you don't really need it. But I mean, you do, you know, on a feature, and then when you have a director who's very color sensitive, like Mangold, and is really very specific about the contrast and the warmth. He likes contrast. He likes saturated. He likes warm. And if that is lacking, you know, but then also like in the editing room, you live in a different color space. You're looking at an OLED monitor, you have 30-foot candles, and then you get into a screen and you're looking at 14-foot candles. You know, suddenly they're like, that doesn't look like, yeah, it's like you're in a different color space. Well, why am I like, why doesn't, like, why am I blacks like, because it's different on the OLED monitor, or, you know, and then actually when we did the Dolby Laser Pass, that was closer to what an OLED monitor is that Mike McCusker has in his editing room. And he goes, well, that looks good. You know, now it's bright and now the blacks are, you know, and so, you know, it's very tricky because there's, you know, all these different, you know, that can open a conversation in terms of what are we doing in the future and theatrically and HDR. And I was talking to Messerschmidt, you know, recently when he was at the AC and, you know, they with Fincher and all the things they like. He's talking about HDR stuff. I don't even really know what he's talking about. I go, one day you have to explain this. You know,
that's good.
I mean, I do everything just by eye, and I go, well, this doesn't. You know, I really, but I know that I like also how it looks on a great monitor, and I mean, I have at home. I still have this Pioneer Curious Plasma that was fantastic, and you know, Ray, we watched dailies on that. This is 40, Judd Apatow's movie, and oh, actually, you weren't on that, but you missed Megan Fox. Anyway, but you know, it's like I mean, I'm fine. It's just, you know, people get accustomed to a certain look, and you know, and at least, you know, with digital projection, and then I guess with Dolby laser projectors are, you know, maybe going to become more spread. But who knows now? Like now with what's happening and the coronavirus, and if we're ever going to get, I mean, I don't want to be doomsday guy, but like, are we ever, Adam? You're a producer. You work some big movies. Are we going to get people back into the theater, or are they going to be all spending money now on Amazon buying, I mean, like, know, amazing home?
I don't know. Systems? I think they will. I mean, look, the last after the Spanish flu in 1918, the next period was the Roaring Twenties. You know, so who knows? I mean, one hopes that people come back to cinemas because they've had enough of their own houses. You know, so, I mean,
it is nice. It is nice to go out of your house because
I mean, it is nice to go out of the house, and it's nice to experience the audience reaction.
And I guess now
Ford versus Ferrari, I saw in Toronto in a theater that held 1,000 seats, and fuck, it's great too. You know, it's great.
Crying.
Oh man, laughing, crying. The scene with Tracy being thrown around in the test drive.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
the theater is like screaming. You know.
Yeah. You know what might make a big resurgence is the drive-in theater.
Yeah.
I know. I read that they were writing about that, but
that might be.
Yeah.
They'll come back to me.
Yeah, I mean, this is really kind of it. I want to, you know, thanks so much, everyone. This is, you know, great seeing you all.
Thanks, Mike, for putting this together. I mean,
it's good. It's
is this something that's available later to watch on YouTube?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
it's going to be not just live, right? Okay.
No, it's live right now, but it'll be up on YouTube, and it sounds like I don't know. We'll see what clips they let us keep in. You know, but it's I mean, it's good to hear all this stuff because it's not like we get to do much of a deep dive about talking it. And like you said, Adam, it's like you look at these photos, you're like, oh my God, it's a trip down memory lane. You know, it's like crazy.
Well, right now, I wish we were going back to the set of, I'd love to drive to Agadolfi now, however hot it is. I would love to drive.
I know.
Willow Springs, here we come. You know? Yeah, no.
Well, Mike and Ray, you guys are working on a movie that actually shut down and is not complete. So I guess
Yeah.
you're going to be the first ones to go back to work, hopefully in July. And
Yeah, we hope so. It's the Macbeth project, Joel Cohen thing. And got about 3 weeks left, so hopefully we'll be able to finish it and get it going. But yeah, so thank you all. And if you guys, not just the audience in general, tomorrow is going to be Lakers going to have a thing about the Mandalorian, interview with the team from the Mandalorian, which is going to happen tomorrow, talking about all that video wall good stuff. And so if you want to check out another interesting stream, but thanks for watching. And Adam, Ray, and Phedon, thanks so much for participating. This is great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike. Later, guys.
Take care, guys. Look after yourself. Thanks, Mike. Cheers.
Yeah.
I'm going to go have dinner.